I also think, building up that customer community in a good way to sort of stay close to your customers over time. It could be, cooking classes, or it could be, Nike is a good example where, the Nike Run Club, where you sort of create an active community with your customers and engage with them in a different manner, not just selling products, but to actually, adopt to the customers' lives and play a vital role in that.
I think you're totally right there, and all the bigger retailers has customer loyalty programs more or less, where you can use the information, the data from there to really understand the customers. But you say something there, Nina, that I really would like to hang on to, and that's not only to sell products. I think, that's my opinion, of course, and I think that it will be, what should I say, it will be more important to create solutions for the customers and not only to sell products.
Hi and welcome to End of the Aisle. In today's episode we're asking the question, how do you drive transformation in retail? And to answer this question, I'm joined today by Per Uebel, who's co-founder of BDG Nordic and who's held leadership roles at Hemköp, ICA and Plantagen, and by Nina Junehed. I said it right. Yeah.
Perfect.
Who most recently worked as a director of IT at ICA Sweden and has held leadership roles at Åhléns and SAS as well. Welcome, guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. So I'll try and set the scene a little bit here. Retail is constantly changing, innovating, and to succeed in the modern economy, we have to kind of push transformation all the time. But retailers are typically large organizations, and that's a very difficult thing to do. So, I mean, what's the success story? Is there like a blueprint here that you can follow to drive transformation? Maybe Nina, you want to start with your take.
I can start. So I agree with you. I think retail is in a very exciting phase right now. It's a lot of digital transformation happening around, and I think one of the key components is really to, when retail becomes more digital, how do you actually put the customer in the center of your operation in a digital way? And I think retail has always been extremely good at customer centricity and really understanding your local customer and where you operate. But when you become digital, you need to sort of incorporate that customer insight earlier on into your core processes in a digital manner. And that's a huge transformation for a lot of retailers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that, Per?
Yeah, I think that sounds pretty clever.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree to that, and it's more driven now from the customer side, you can say. The customer adopting new channels all the time, and the retailer have to follow and adopt. And that, for some companies, takes a little bit longer time than it should do. But it's, from the other hand, it's very expensive to always be, what should I say, be in the right way, tuned to the market. So it's a lot of investments also for the retailers.
And what kind of retailers do you think are succeeding with this transformation most? Any good examples we could pick out?
Yeah, I think you can pick up the retailers that have been business to business, turning more from business to consumers. That is something totally driven by the digitalization in a way. Good names like Adidas, Nike, that I think is doing themselves a little bit more independent of the resellers and going directly to the consumers. And they, of course, get a better margin doing that. I don't know.
No, but I agree. I think also, when you look at market leaders, I think there's a huge responsibility in being a market leader to constantly innovate, constantly be have your ear close to the market and close to the customers to really stay relevant. And I think ICA has been a good example of that, really, to working closely with your customers and adopting the business in an agile manner to be able to always stay in front and also innovate. Yeah. And I think one of the really good things that ICA started out with early was to put an innovation hub in the operation. And I think as a kickoff, as a sort of an injection of your innovation, I think that's a really good method of doing that. So you get sort of a lot of fuel into that innovation, and then you can continue to move that innovation closer to your operational core. And I think ICA has been a good example of that. I also think, looking at the Axfood group, for example, they've been really good in taking on the digital transformation and really looking into the online business now and investing heavily into that area to become, to take on the challenge with ICA. So I think you constantly need to drive your business development, and from a leadership perspective also establish why are we doing this and what do we want to accomplish, and get that energy into the organization as a whole. I think that's one of the key things too.
One thing you said there that I'm going to ask you a bit more about, working closely with customers. What does that look like? Is it sort of doing focus groups, research, that kind of thing, or how do they get the most out of that? Yeah,
I think absolutely that's a good method. I also think building up that customer community in a good way to sort of stay close to your customers over time. It could be cooking classes, or it could be Nike is a good example where the Nike Run Club, where you sort of create an active community with your customers and engage with them in a different manner, not just selling products, but to actually adopt to the customers' lives and play a vital role in that.
I think you're totally right there, and all the bigger retailers has customer loyalty programs more or less, where you can use the information, the data from there to really understand the customers. But you say something there, Nina, that I really would like to hang on to, and that's not only to sell products. I think, that's my opinion, of course, and I think that it will be, what should I say, it will be more important to create solutions for the customers and not only to sell products.
Exactly.
Which also maybe could be a driver for the retailers to earn more money and margin by developing new businesses, in services in a way. And how that does look, that's different from, of course, retailer to retailer. But there I think we will see more development in the future.
Yeah. And also from a business perspective, really laying out that ecosystem around your business and understanding how does this ecosystem need to change over time for me to become relevant and to be an active and long-term partner to my clients.
Yeah,
I think that's something that every customer or every company needs to work with.
Yeah, exactly. I guess for companies like Adidas and Nike are really at the forefront. It's quite clear to see how they've succeeded, but how does that translate to your average retailer? I mean, if we take, say, pharmaceutical companies or online grocery retailers, how can they kind of look at Nike as a case and move forward with that in mind? I think it's a very difficult question to ask, because they must be asking themselves this. But is there any kind of clear opportunities there for them to offer solutions, as you put it, Per?
I think, when you're saying a pharmacy, for instance, they are more today already a retailer selling directly to the consumers, and Nike and Adidas are coming from business to business and then turning to the consumer. So that's a little bit different. But I believe that for pharmacies, for instance, it really has to do with by understanding your customers and really adapt to the customers' changing preferences. And for the pharmacy market, it's definitely have been so that they are turning into the digital market, e-commerce, where we also have Apotea is doing a good job in Sweden by turning that into that perspective. And everyone else has to follow that, of course. So I think you have to be fast moving with the light structure, and that's maybe not so easy always. I mean, you as a former CIO and knows how much investments you have to do, but still you need to move quite fast, and I don't know personally how to address, but maybe you can exploit that a little bit.
No, but I think looking at now 2022 where we are, there's still a lot of core investments that needs to be done in retail in general. And how do you sort of free up capital in the company to be able to make those investments? I think it's you need to both hit the gas but also hit the brake at the same time.
Yeah.
And finding areas where you can sort of downsize or increase operational efficiency, and in some areas that can free up a lot of capital for the more heavy investments that you need to do back end.
Yeah.
And it's important to work with both of those areas at the same time.
I can appreciate like the challenge of doing that when we've just come out of an extraordinary situation with the pandemic as well.
Yeah.
I mean, is that helped in some ways? Is it sort of shaken up how retail works and everyone's rethinking it, or is it a potentially a massive cost? Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely have taken the digitalization or e-commerce further into the business. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And we can also see, I mean, if you look at the population in general, I think, some of the age groups that typically didn't buy a lot online are really one of the most loyal customers online now. And I don't think they're going back.
No.
So I think it's really, like you said, Per, it's really moved retailers to accelerate that digitalization and invest heavily into e-commerce.
Yeah.
True.
Interesting. Another thing I think we could look at is we talked a bit about these innovation hubs that exist in large companies as well. But if you have to move fast, like how do you practically do it in a large organization? Is it better to sort of try and test things on a couple of stores or a chain and see if it works before kind of moving forward and making it like a main company objective? Or is it usually better to sort of make a bet that we should go ahead with this technology and we just roll it out across the way? Like, what's the sort of thinking at the senior positions within retailers when it comes to these sorts of innovation projects?
Yeah.
Testing always has been one core thing in retail that you always test. And then when you see it's working, then you make a more full rollout of it.
Yeah.
So that I think. But what I think is maybe new, or what should be there now, is maybe to have, like you said, customer groups, cooking groups, running groups, patient groups with the same diseases when we're talking pharmacies. There you can, what are they really talking about? What do they think is the most important things that you maybe can help them with?
Yeah.
So I believe you have to turn into maybe a little bit more solution, not only selling the product. That's getting too easy.
Yeah.
In a way.
Exactly.
Yeah. And also innovate with your customers, right? And innovate with your suppliers.
Yeah.
I think that's key as well. So like you said, I think, what is the core ambition of the company? And in grocery, a lot of grocery retailers really want, the Swedish population or the European population to live healthier lives and make better decisions. So how can you become sort of a partner to your customers in doing that? And I think one thing with the ecosystem is that you're working very closely with your local community and really starting early at the early ages in sports clubs and so on to really be that partner and to help the population make a better decision. And I think, you can, as a retailer, you can play a very important role there in different age groups and in different parts in your life throughout the customer lives. So.
Very interesting. Maybe if we just shift focus a tiny bit, when it comes to driving transformation, how often is it easy to do it with your existing structures in the organization, or how often do you need to sort of hire in new people with new skills to push things through? I mean, what's the kind of, do retailers go through cycles where they need to change people at the top potentially to sort of drive this innovation, or is it usually things that can come from within? What's your take on that?
Oh, I think it varies, right?
Yeah.
And I think it also goes in cycles.
Yeah.
You know, in some years, the trend has gone more into, you know, taking in a lot of external competence and making a huge program and putting that program maybe in a different building and just, you know, creating the transformation there, and then just, you know, coming into the ordinary headquarters or ordinary stores and just pushing that transformation in. I think the trend now is going more towards, you know, getting that innovation from within.
Yeah.
Obviously with maybe some external help in structure and so on. But I mean, all people, we are good at ideas, and we need to nurture a culture where we can, you know, think about new things, a learning organization where we can fail fast and try out new things. And I think retail, like you said, retail has been good in trying new things towards customers, but maybe not as open to driving transformation in such a way internally.
No.
So,
Right.
and that's something that we need to start doing much more, and also sort of, you know, taking hands with different parts in the organization and creating some new groups that you work with new colleagues, not just in your silo, but sort of crossing borders internally, and not be afraid of that. And that boils very much down to culture and working together, I would say.
You can't get one answer on this question. Yeah.
No,
You
I
get
didn't
10.
expect
You
to.
get 10.
Yeah.
But I totally agree.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Another thing then, and this may be getting a little bit specific, but I think it's kind of interesting. Within the IT department of large retailers, it's not unusual to have, like, let's say, very old technology that's hard, legacy software, whatever you want to call it, that's hard to either remove or replace. And that, I mean, we work with promotions. It's something we specialize in, and we serve as a layer to retailers. But what does it take to really kind of update the kind of core technology that a retailer uses? Is it something that should be avoided at all costs because it's such a complicated and risk-prone process, or is it something that retailers now have to be thinking about a lot more?
Well, I think, you know, all older companies have legacy.
Yeah.
And that's something you need to live with.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to work with that legacy in an agile manner and try to sort of decouple it, to modernize it over time. It's not possible to do a big bang and just, you know, take out all the old stuff and in with the new. I think you need to do that gradually and really decouple and find the pieces where you can sort of exchange to bring in some new things, and then constantly, find a model on how you can adopt the old legacy systems. And then I think, you know, going from having been a brick and mortar retailer for over 100 years, going into more of a digital e-commerce structure, obviously it puts a lot of pressure on the old machinery. And that's something you need to have a lot of respect for, but you also need to, you know, sort of try to eat that elephant in small pieces and do it gradually. Otherwise you can have a big problem. So
yeah, exactly. But I guess it does put kind of you at risk against competition. This is a different example, but I'm thinking about the older banks that tend to run on ancient software almost, and now you see these kind of young, dynamic institutions coming ahead that are kind of offering an alternative that's faster. And it's sort of, at what point do you, as a traditional retailer, kind of make a jump? Or maybe jump's the wrong word. It has to be a more kind of gradual change.
Yeah.
I think Nina's right. You have to eat the elephant in pieces.
Yeah.
And but then you also have the whole organization, the people working there. So it's not only to buy new motor. That's not enough. So you really need to address the people as well.
Yeah.
How to drive the new car or motor that you're building. So, and that takes time. So I believe it's a good way to do it in pieces, step by step.
Yeah.
Like you say.
Yeah.
Probably the only way also as an owner, if you're sitting there, you don't want to take a big bang cost.
Yeah. It's also very true. How do you approach it from, let's say, a culture, a people management perspective? If you have to, or if you need to drive some big transformation through, how do you get people on side? Another difficult question to answer, I'm sure.
You want me to go?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think leadership is it's so important in these transformations.
Yeah.
To really have top management to set the scene and where we want to take the company, and how this new technology shift or this new transformation, how that enables the company to move in the direction where we need to go to be continuously, competitive and stay relevant on the market. And I think that bigger why is extremely important for everyone to not just hear about, but truly, in your heart, believe in. So it takes a lot of leadership to get people engaged and also, be frank with, it's going to be a tough journey. We all need to work together to do this, and no link is weaker than the weakest link, right? Yeah. So everybody needs to be on board, and I think leadership is extremely important. And then courage, I would say. Yeah, have courage and stay true to that change that you're doing, and you're going to fail. Yeah, in some manners, and fail fast and move on. I think that's important. Yeah.
Well, we've come to the end already. 20 minutes flies.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, hard to believe. But maybe we can try and wrap up a little bit here. So, we posed the question, how do you drive transformation in retail? And we talked about culture being a key part of it. Embracing new technologies, but maybe doing it in a kind of gradual and careful process. Listening to customers being like a really key part of it. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, guys, for joining the podcast. And we'll be coming ahead with new podcasts pretty soon. So stay tuned.